You are now listening to the podcast for geeks and the stuff they love, where each week we'll talk about everything from anime to movies, games, and prop collecting with the people who create and love it. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Vince.
I'm James.
And this is your Geek Fix.
You know, a number of years ago, we don't have tons of things here in the U.S. as far as, I've ridden on subways. I have ridden on other cars in San Francisco. Of course, I've ridden on a trolley. And then here in this part in the Midwest where I live, one year we decided that we would take the train to get someplace. It's about 12 hours to drive to. And so we thought, well, this would mean at least we don't have to drive. And we've never tried the train before. His son might like it. And so you get on the train, though, in my town to go west of here at 3 o'clock in the morning, if it arrives on time. You don't know when it's going to arrive. It's not like Japan and stuff where, like, the person gets fired if they're 3 minutes late. But, it could arrive hours and hours later because the priority for those lines, it's the same train lines that they use for coal and whatever else that they transport. So these trains take a back burner for that. But so we decided to take it just to see the view and whatever else. And in the end, it took us about 20 hours.
Wow.
To get to a place we could have driven to in less time. And it was overnight too. So we're traveling overnight. Can't really sleep on the trains that they have. The Amtrak is the one that's here. And you can't really sleep very well on it. They make announcements, things like that. But there was one point where we rode through part of Utah where you went through the canyons and things, and that part was cool. But the rest of it was just miserable. It was so bad. And then we had to come back on the same train. I did learn too, if you're going to ride on like the Amtrak, get a seat on the bottom floor because you'll have more privacy. You'll have access to plugs, and it's quieter because most people go upstairs during the day, so you can sleep and things like that. But at the same time, we're lucky because we have people that are involved in this channel, and I'm lucky to have two people who live in other parts of the world that have kind of more opportunities for cool transport and transportation forms and places to go. So literally today we caught James, and if you're wondering where James was on parts of previous episodes, he was literally driving in his car. We did make the attempt, and I'll show a little bit of a clip of him here making an attempt with his girlfriend's help to still participate to some level. Not that I'm recommending that you talk or record yourself while you're riding and driving in your car, but at the same time, you know what? I was just thinking about it. The way that was your camera reversed, because it looked to me like you were on the left side of the car.
In Spain it is on the left side of the car. Well,
is it really?
Yeah,
I need to move there. That's awesome. Really? Okay. Was that difficult to adjust to at all, or?
No, well, considering I've never driven on the right side of the I've never been.
Oh, okay, that's where you started.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So if you go back and visit England, do you have any difficulties there when you rent a car or anything, or?
I haven't had that privilege yet. So every time that I've gone back, it's always been using public transportation, just because it's either super cheap or it's super practical in the places I've been. No, I'm looking forward to eventually like getting behind the wheel in England or in whatever place that has like the
trying that other side
and just trying.
It's not bad on the freeway, but in town and on roundabouts.
In a high stress area.
Making left-hand turns or right-hand turns is a whole different thing. My wife mostly drove when we were in England because I was 1 year to, I think it was, you had to be 25 for a rental car to drive it. And I think I was 24 or something. I can't remember. No, I was in my 30s. What are we talking about? How is that possible?
I don't think you can have a certain amount of time that you've had your license.
Yeah.
You also need an international driver's license,
if
right?
you don't have an international license too, you have to have, they'll look for certain things when you go to rent the car. So So
I don't
types
have a
of
license, to be honest.
transportation. You don't have a license?
Nope.
So what do you usually
No?
use?
Public
How'd you go
transport.
on your date? Yeah,
Oh, my wife
last
drives.
night.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, she drives? Oh, I
Yeah.
gotcha. Wait, how did you guys go on your date yesterday? Do you take public transportation?
No,
Do you drive
we
your
have
car?
a car. I just don't have a license. And I don't drive
okay.
without a license, to be honest. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
Well, that's
No.
yeah.
If you get caught, you're in bigger trouble than you are driving without a license. And so,
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So
There's a whole
do you,
story, but basically, I had a big accident when I was 18, and I was going up for my license. It was pretty traumatic. Like, saw a lot of stuff happen. After that, it was too scary to drive by myself. I've been trying for years now, and I keep on trying. But the fear of making an accident by yourself, because I was a victim in the accident. I wasn't driving or anything. We were in in a bus going to Spain, of all places.
okay.
But
see Santa Claus.
Yeah, exactly. But the driver fell asleep in the night, and he ran into a ditch, and the bus flipped on its side and basically went through the railing. And there were casualties, and I saw a lot of them happen. So it was pretty heavy. So for me, that kind of spoiled the whole driving situation unintentionally.
Gotcha.
And it's really unrealistic. It's a bit of like a survivor's guilt kind of thing, where you are afraid to make an accident. So you are like hyper aware of everything, which means that you are unaware of things that you should be looking at.
More hyper vigilant.
Does that affect you as a passenger as well? Like if you're driving with someone else and you still like you're calm.
Really?
I can even sit in a bus. Like I do that for work. I commute on a bus trip, which takes like an hour towards my work and then an hour back, which is the ideal time to listen to our podcast.
Is this a public bus or is this one that's...
It's a public bus. So the public transport in the Netherlands is really good. There have been strikes, like people striking, putting down work. So it has been a bit dodgy over a couple of months. But we have a central station that is actually in the middle of the country in Utrecht, which all the trains go to and go past most often. Which makes it like our infrastructure is really optimized. So I can get away with now over 18 years already just using public transport to commute to work and go everywhere. And otherwise carpool or have my wife drive me around. Yeah.
Right. The only reason I asked about the only reason I asked about like being hyper focused is because I know that when before I got my license, whenever I was driving as a passenger, it would be completely. Like, I know that I'm going to get from A to B, but after getting my license, I was so much more focused on how other people were driving.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, it depends on the people who you're driving with, I guess, because I've been in cars where I thought I wouldn't survive the trip.
Well, yeah.
Because someone was just planking the gas all the time. But no, it's a very weird thing. So But on the other end, I mean, the benefit of being in the Netherlands is that we have excellent public transport, and I always joke that I wanted to have a job in which people drive me to work, which they do.
Yeah. Here in the U.S., there's a majority of people in the East Coast, for example, that have never had a license and never will because it costs a lot to store your car. It costs a lot to buy a car. And then it's hard to drive. And also you're more likely to get stuck when you're trying to get someplace than if you use like Subway or something like that.
Yeah.
But like you, Vince, I had an accident when I was 17, about to turn 18. It was pretty significant. Like resulted in brain injury and everything else on a date. And but my parents, so I was afraid to drive. But my parents thought it'd be a good idea to send me to this. It's supposed to be a course that teaches you they set up opportunities for they teach you how to drive on oil spills and stuff like that. Like they teach you all these crazy things. But on the flip side, because it's also something that they mandate for people that have like drunk drive or something like that. The place that they had it at, so they took me downtown and to this place, and all over the walls of the entry area that you walk into were photographs of casualties from different accidents and road rage things.
Oh, that's
like
heavy.
all over it. And I was already traumatized. That's why I'm not driving. But there was like, I mean, horrible things I can't even describe.
So it looked like
they had on this wall. It was like so bad.
Yeah.
But you know, and I got through this course, and I did get my license again. But at the same time, I didn't feel like it was helpful to go to the course necessarily. Like that didn't exactly raise my confidence. But on the flip side, I could see if I was living in another city, I probably, or even where I used to live when I was growing up. Now they have a monorail. Then they have the buses that go to the monorail. Like you can pretty easily go, not even just for that city, which is a pretty major city. Salt Lake is where I grew up in Utah. Now you can take a bus to the monorail, go 5 cities away, and be there in less time easily than you could ever drive, like but like a quarter of the time, because it's super fast.
Yeah.
You know, and that sort of thing. I mean, those are opportunities that people have, but I wonder how many people are out there that really like they never have a reason to get a license, and they don't plan to. Have you ever thought about going in, getting yours?
Oh, yeah.
Since?
Yeah. I've tried a lot of times as well. I sink a lot of money into it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I tried for 5 times or 6 times now.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't happen. So I need to be in a better headspace than I was before.
Yeah.
Which I'm working on. So it's a pretty heavy topic, maybe, but one of the good things about it, and I'm being very, very, candid about it, but one of the girls in the bus lost her arm during that accident, and I actually saw like a 5-year-old kid die, all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty heavy. But the girl who lost her arm was initially quite mad at me because I shone a light because it was dark, and she saw her arm like it was, lying on the ground.
Oh wow, separate. Yeah. Oh geez.
Yeah, and I had a very nice belt, like a leather belt with all the notches, so you could really tighten very well. But it was the accident tourniquet, so they use it to stop the bleeding.
That's good.
I had an interview with that girl later after the bus accident, because it was a pretty heavy accident and was on the news everywhere. But that girl ended up becoming one of the first, I don't want to be derogative, but like a physically disabled playmates or Playboy bunnies. Like,
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that's why this my contribution to society, I guess.
Yeah,
giving a belt.
It's her Playboy career.
That's like my 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but it's Hugh Hefner, I guess. Yeah.
When I was a kid, my dad was a pilot. Like when he got out of the military, his whole idea was that he wanted to do a couple things when he got out of the military. One of them was to go to school, and the other one was they wanted to use the money to become a pilot. And he became a pilot, and he became a commercial one for a small commercial. So because of his hours and things, like I'd go flying with him a lot. Like he'd take me up in a little Cessna and stuff, and he'd fly around and stuff. And I always thought that would be cool because you don't have to see very far.
That's a monoplane, right?
There are Cessnas that do have but no, it's just a usually it's about a 5 to 6 seater plane, sometimes smaller.
Okay.
Single prop in the front. But actually no, they also make the
double ones, yeah.
But at any rate, so we in fact one time my dad says the story he'll always tell is like he was flying me and I was like 5. And, and he'd let me take the yoke now and then, which was always fun to do that. Like, you got to do this to make it get that feeling that you get in your gut of like, woo.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're just flying along and he's doing his hours and I'm like, look, there goes a man.
Yep.
And then, there goes a man. There goes another man.
Okay.
My dad's like, he thinks I'm just like, I mean, I did have a big imagination back then.
Oh, yeah.
But we had flown into a group of skydivers.
Oh, no.
And they were all going by and stuff. But yeah, and then when I lived in California, I lived up in Sonora briefly.
Very dark.
Yeah, and then it's not going to be that deep, but when I moved to Sonora, California, which people have seen, Back to the Future 3, that was filmed in Sonora, so that's where that set is. It's always there. They also use it for other movies. It's also where they filmed Little House on the Prairie and stuff. But anyway,
it's a real Western town, I guess.
Yeah. But most of the people that live up there, they actually work in San Francisco, which is many hours away and a long distance away. So what they do is they fly each other in these little planes every day, back and forth to San Francisco for work, which is crazy. It sounds. I mean, you're raising your chances for an accident there, that frequency. But at the same time, that was their transportation, was these small planes, and you kind of like get together and share the cost of the gas, but so that they could work in San Francisco, but then live up in the mountains and have that kind of life. But I don't know. Yeah, tell me about some of the other transportation opportunities you guys have where you are, and what have you used, and where do you go?
I specifically next week will be taking both flight, so I'm flying from Spain to England, and then specifically staying in London, where I'll be using the undergrounds and stuff, which are always a fun experience. Buses, always fun. I personally enjoy buses. Like, I know that sometimes like sitting down for that long without much leg room or without like being able to move around as much is a bit like constricting. But I don't know. I enjoy it. I think just being a passenger in like such a big vehicle, but not like, I don't like planes in that sense, but like with buses, I think fine, just driving around like the countryside or wherever and just looking out while being transported around is good.
That part is nice. Throughout, I mean, we were in a kind of boring area of England, but at the same time, a lot of fields and everything else. It was always pretty, no matter what the season was, and stuff like that. But on the flip side,
rain,
like,
I guess.
Well, there was quite a bit of that, but at the same time, I mean, like it was either all green, or there's a thing that happens in the fall where because there's 3 different types of crops that are grown, that you get like these purples and browns and stuff that are kind of cool looking. So it looks a lot. Actually, it's a lot like where I live now. Now that I think about it, it's not too different from where I am now, But on the flip side, so as far as the underground, like the tube and stuff like that, what's that like out there? Is it cleaner at least than like what you'd see here in the U.S. or?
It's packed. I can say that much.
Is it like standing room only kind of thing?
No. Well, the times that I've been, there's typically like places to sit down. Obviously, it depends like what time. Like if you go during rush hour when people are entering or leaving work, then like. You'd be very lucky to try and find a place to sit or even to try and get in. But if you compare it to things like Japan trains and stuff, it's nothing that bad. Like there is at least room that you can stand in there. You might be a bit confined, but like you can at least get in.
Yeah, you don't have to use other people's as airbags.
Yes. Just make sure you sit behind the right person. I know when we were out there, and I know when my son went out there not too long ago, you couldn't get across to France because they were working on the tunnel things. Is that open again, or is that something that's like, can you still drive across, or is it being worked on?
Don't know. To be quite honest, I don't know.
Yeah. It just seems wild to drive underneath that much water.
Well, there used to be like giant hovercrafts going back and forth between England and France, and I really missed out on that one. Yeah, giant ones where they could park cars in the middle, and like big ferries, hovercraft ferries.
Oh yeah.
When we originally came over to Spain, we took the ferry. We drove on the ferry with both cars at that time
to move all your stuff.
Yeah,
that's how I thought you were transporting this time. I thought you were going to drive over there and stuff.
No, but it's way too much hassle.
Just fly it. Yeah.
It would be.
How long does it take to do that?
When we originally came over, like this was when I was 9 years old, so I don't have the best memory of it.
Oh, I gotcha.
But it was like I don't know if it was like a 7 or 8 hour ferry between one part of it to the other, because I know that I slept horribly because of like all the waves and stuff, and it was just very nauseating.
Sure.
From the top of France to the Pyrenees, I think we did that as one trip, obviously with breaks on the way, and then from the Pyrenees to where we are at the moment was another day. So it was multiple days. The way that we planned it, indeed, because obviously it was me and my siblings, and like parents being in car, like confined space with young children, like they need a break.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, there's not a lot of opportunity for sleeping on the on any of those ferries. Vince, do you go over to France very often? I mean, it's just right there.
It's right there.
It is. It's like,
well, I used to go there with my family, with like my mom, dad, and my brother. We would drive there, and basically that was every summer holiday. We would go there for 7 years or 8 years in a row.
Wow!
For 3 or 4 weeks or 3 weeks, and we made a lot of friends there. So we met some English people who one guy I still call my brother to this day, Adam, which I really miss and should visit sometime. We made good friends there, and so we always agreed that there was like this group of people on that on the camping ground where we were, and we always meet up every year at that camping. We have our same spots, and we knew the proprietors there. It was a very small one in France. And it was in Cologne, and it was called the Mill of Cologne, I guess. And it was really, really nice. Very sunny, like all good stuff. So we went there a lot. So I do speak French quite adeptly, not fluently.
Oh, awesome.
Okay. I know enough French and German to get myself into trouble, I guess.
Yeah.
We were chasing some girls over there. We were in our teens, and with the lack of communication, we ended up being at this big family reunion. And we were invited, and we were like, they asked us to go eat pizza in a restaurant. We were like, okay. And all of a sudden we were garnered off somewhere where there were like grandmothers and great-grandparents and everything. And we were just being introduced to the family. And we had spent the whole evening there dancing with the family and celebrating something we don't know. So that was pretty good. But
the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I went to Belgium a while back to a convention. And I used to train there, so I got in a bus to the train station in Eindhoven, then took the international train to Brussels, and then to Ghent, and then took the subway to the expo. And that's pretty good. And it's also relatively cheap to get to places with public transport. And
so describe what are the train layouts like that you guys typically ride on?
Most of it is like rows of two. So there's like the center row, and at least the ones in the Netherlands are. There's like a center row. There are like the two chairs with flip out
like the
tables.
high-speed trains then.
All of them basically. We have high-speed trains, and we have like sprinters that are like in between like smaller stations that stop at every stop, and there are trains that skip a lot of in-between stations. So they will only take the central station and not like the outlier station of a city, for example. But they're all very well maintained, and like they recently renovated a lot of the stuff, and it's very comfortable, I have to say. And there's almost always a place to sit. And in the middle they have like these train seats where you have like a 4-seater with a table in the middle, so you can see each other, that kind of stuff. But when I go abroad, most of the time, I just, especially if I go to conventions, I went there in my Ghostbusters costume, by the way, in a train.
Oh yeah, you said that. Yeah.
But
some people even ask you to post for them and stuff.
Yeah. So when I do that, I mean, I am pretty well off nowadays, money wise. So I just search for this first class, not to have to sit with all the commuters, especially if I'm in costume or whatever. I just want to have the room. I have some extra room for myself, and then you see like all these business people sitting there going like, "Oh, I'm on first class with my laptop," and I'm just there dressed up as a Ghostbuster like an idiot.
Yeah.
Like ruining their vibe.
This guy means business.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but it's a business.
But now you can take your new prop and just open that up and.
The suitcase. Yeah. I don't think I'll come very far. I go very far. If I would bring that to Paris or something.
Yeah,
or
they'll probably take you off the train and interview you for a while for that one.
Yeah, I think I think
do a
I'm
little exploratory stuff on you.
You mean like they'd ask where he got it so they can get one themselves?
Yeah, that's what it is.
I actually had an app.
Or probe you.
When I was traveling for work in America, I bought an umbrella that was like from The Legend of Zelda, and when it was collapsed, it was the Master Sword, and I just had it in my backpack, like in the back, like Link would have it, going through the airport. The TSA guy was like,
"Hey, you got through?"
Yeah. He was
wow.
Like, "Are you here to defeat Ganon?" And I'm like, "Yeah. Don't tell anybody." He's like, "Oh, we got a hero here."
Yeah,
that would be.
I would love to.
So upsetting if the news the next day would be
insane man with swords in airport. Well, I actually got asked if I was a spy at one time. So this guy from TSA comes up to me and said, "Are you a spy?" And I'm like, "I'm not allowed to tell, or I have to kill you."
That's fun.
And he just waited
here in the U.S.
But that's my privilege. I mean, I'm a chubby, chuckly white guy. I think if I were any other ethnicity,
so it all works out.
Probably be caught or jailed or whatever.
Well, here in the U.S., I mean, every time that there's a conference, so here in this state, for example, there's a con that goes on every year, and of course, it made the news that there was somebody that was the police they came in large force, they came dressed heavy for it, at a bank where calls had been called in that there's this guy that had a gun on him and all this other stuff. And it was just a cosplayer that would walk to the bank to get money for buying stuff at the con. And, the tips of the gun and everything were had the red tip and stuff. It was good for a con. It was safe.
Yeah.
So it had been marked and flagged and all that stuff. But at the same time, like nobody, and he had the swords too. So he also had two swords. I think it wasn't Deadpool, but he was dressed up like something kind of like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so he had swords and he had a gun and stuff, and he's at the bank. And so people had made phone calls. And of course, he had like the full SWAT team out there, to confront him. And it was like a funny little thing in the end. And he got interviewed plenty on by the local news.
Walking into a bank with that kind of stuff, I would have a friend that take it outside and just not enter a bank with it. I mean,
have somebody else, or I don't know,
because the laws here in the Netherlands are, which I am unfortunately very familiar with, that are the weapon laws. If you have like very different types of weapons, like stabbing weapons, air-powered rifles, like we have very tight gun control and everything. But there is like a type 6 or type 5 weapon, which is anything that can be construed as a weapon and can be used to extort, humiliate, force someone against their will or whatever. Is by law a weapon. So if you wave a hot dog in someone's face, is it going to say, "I'm going to kill you" or whatever? Well, that hot dog can be construed by law as a weapon. Just I'm thinking of a very extreme thing here.
I know.
My hands are.
I mean, that makes sense though. That kind of makes sense. I get that one.
That would be so cool for your hands, for your fist to be legally defined as a lethal weapon.
In some cases, they would be.
That's right. Just shout us. Yeah, that would be funny.
Come to the Netherlands. Have your hands registered as a lethal weapon, and never leave.
Did you ever see
again?
What is it called? Everywhere. Crap. What is it called? Everywhere. All
everything.
At once.
Everywhere at once.
Everything.
It's on my watch list.
You saw that? Yeah. So the hot dog can people, they would still be considered as having weapons.
Yeah. Oh man, such a fun movie. Yeah. Yeah, you should really watch it. I was doubtful in the beginning, like it's going to be too slapstick or something, but it's really well done. I actually fell asleep in the end because we watched it late.
Wow, that's
really the best multiverse movie.
High praise for me. Very soothing.
You fell asleep during that, but you stayed awake through all of Avatar. That's impressive.
Well, I should hire those.
Speaking of long journeys,
I should hire those video gaming kids that sat next to me. For 2.5. So you go to Avatar to the movie, right? And you, I don't know, you're a kid, you spend your allowance on it, and then you just grab your phone and start playing this tunnel racer game with your friend next to you while you're in a movie like Avatar 2 with 3D glasses and everything. You paid the premium price for it. I'm like, kids these days.
They kick you out of the movies here for that,
Yeah.
One form of transportation that I was interested in, but they've shut it down now. If you go to Japan for the longest time, you could rent these go-karts that you literally are able to drive through town on the normal roads.
They shut that down?
They shut it down because somebody actually drove through they had several accidents, but they had one that drove through a restaurant. I ran into the front of the restaurant at a coffee shop. I can't remember either way, but yeah, it looked like Mario Kart themed, even though it wasn't official. So they looked like the actual Mario Karts, and then you drive through with your friends and stuff. But it was super dangerous. I mean, they weren't regulated. They're on the road with normal cars. They were running in and out of traffic. They were going off the road and onto whatever. But it did seem like a fun premise, at least.
I was going to do that on my trip.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
are
had
you
that
going
on
to
my
Japan?
list.
When are you going to Japan?
No. A long way. It's still a long way away, but I had that on my list. I want to do this while I'm there because it's such an experience. But I didn't know they shut it down.
Yeah,
they did.
I'm sure that they'll find a way to.
A while.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll find a way to make it work. I mean,
we have it indoor here in the Netherlands.
Regulated it would be okay, but
we have it indoor.
Indoor would be okay. Well, like a normal Mario Kart track,
unofficial stuff here.
But yeah, this was like if you don't want to use a car, it's almost like in a lot of cities. Oh, here's another form of transportation. I guess I gotta admit, went to Chicago. I think I also saw it somewhere else where you'd rent a
beer bike or a crud.
No, worse than that.
We have those
hover. You lean forward and it goes. What is that? Well, not a hoverboard, but what's it?
Segway.
I'm like, Segways. Yeah, renting a Segway. Like you said, much worse than all those other things. I have rented bikes here before, which is a good time.
Do you know what a beer bike is, though?
Oh yeah, I do. Where you have multiple people.
Yeah.
I've seen those too.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't drink, so I haven't done that. In New Orleans, they have a lot of those.
Yeah, here in New Orleans, we have multiple problem. They have. But a fun thing though, just a tangent about James. You preparing the list for stuff to do in Japan. There's currently a Kickstarter live called "Let's Go to Japan," in which a board game is made that basically the game is plan your trip to Japan and see how it pans out. So I backed it. I'm not sponsoring it or anything. I just backed the Kickstarter for the very good like the premium edition. You get like these Japanese cups. You get like wooden pieces and all that kind of stuff.
All right.
But when I looked at it, I was like, I lived this game because I was planning every day of my Japan trip going.
Yeah, you did.
And in 2 weeks, we saw like the whole island almost, which was insane looking back. But
my mistake was last year. What's it? Last year? Yeah, last year. You could start purchasing flights.
Yep.
Because we didn't know when they were going to open allowing people to come in that were foreigners. They are very paranoid about foreign people, but
due to COVID, I guess.
China, well, and China is kind of like their major. Typically, what really fills up the tourist portion. I think 70 or 80% of their individuals that are tourists in Japan typically were from China. So the fact that China was still closed. And the fact that we didn't know when it was going to open, Japan was going to open, at the same time, you could still buy your flights. And the flights were so cheap. And I was looking at it, I was like, man, $350 to go to Japan.
That's cheap, yeah.
And take my daughter would be super cheap. And then, if they cancel it, I mean, the worst thing that could happen is they cancel, they don't close or they don't open the country and you just cancel your flights. And so my original plan was just to do that and then to go and be part of that first group where, you wouldn't have too much problem. And originally too, they said, unless when they did first open, they said that you had to be part of a tourist group. So basically somebody's keeping an eye on you. So because they didn't want you getting around and spreading something. And of course, part of that first group had COVID.
Oh, wow.
So then they kind of initially shut things back down. Then when they opened things completely, It's like everybody went. Everybody's there now. And it's like worse than before as far as at least, I mean, you know, with the exception of China, everybody's there and doing their Japan thing. And I just feel like unless you go to some of the small towns, which I think is the best part about going to Japan, would be going to small towns. I think like it's better to wait at this point
or go to, like,
for things to calm down.
On the top of a freaking mountain like we did by accident.
Yeah. Go hike somewhere and get lost, and nobody identifies that you're there again.
We always start our day off saying, okay, we did a lot of walking yesterday, so we're going to take it easy. And then it's like, if we go to the top, there's like this big temple on the top of the mountain. We walk like 23 kilometers.
The giant Buddha.
Yeah, well, one of them was in Nagano, where they had basically when Amaterasu was stuck in a cave.
Mm-hmm.
Some other god just pulled the door out and it flew away. And then this city says, okay, well, here's where the door landed.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I thought it was very smart. Like,
this is how we're going to bank on this.
Yeah, so this god was so
well,
powerful.
you know, the yen dropped so much too. I mean, that was the other thing before is like if I went to Japan from the U.S., it's like even when I went to England, you know, back in the day, it's nice that they, no offense, but it was nice that the pound went down because
I
could probably do something. But I mean, like it used to be like anything that I would do over there would be twice of what it would be here.
Yeah.
And so, you know, Japan right at the moment, and even still is the yen's kind of low because of their prime minister. So, you know, going there and doing things right now is also cheaper. So it's like there are some benefits. If you can get over there right now, cost wise, it wouldn't be too bad. But on the flip side, it's hard to find a hotel. It's hard to, you know, there's several things that would be difficult. But that's interesting. So when you lock that in, you got to let us know, or when we figure out if we're gonna do how we're gonna pull off the New Vegas trip.
I won't bring the suitcase.
Yeah. It'll be so that trip would be interesting because the place that you know, Good Springs is halfway between
New Vegas and
Los Angeles, really. Well, San Diego,
Las Vegas.
San Diego.
Sorry.
New Vegas.
Yeah. New Vegas.
We're not going to stay that long.
You're jumping ahead in time.
We need a new one already.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Like
there is technically what I would say is the equivalent of New Vegas in Vegas, but
same thing. I could
but
go
yeah,
to
it's halfway in between, so you could almost fly to California and get there just as easily as going to Vegas. But so there'd be definitely road trip. So definitely drive it through the desert, driving trip. But,
I'll be right back. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, so there you go. Well, I mean, honestly, that was the end of the thing anyway.
You could stuck around for 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, yeah, if there's some place, if you have a weird, I'm always interested in strange forms of transportation. You know, if the way you get to work is on a tow line that you do while skiing, let us know. If there's something weird or something interesting or new. Yeah, you ski to work. I actually, when I did work, because I grew up in the mountains, I worked at a place called Snowbird, which is a pretty famous, you know, ski resort, which is where Miller used to do all of his, like he'd jump out of all those old ski movies where they jump out of the trams and things and like land on the ground. I worked at that resort.
Oh, cool.
And so I had to take the tram up every day to get readings at the top of the mountain and then write it back down and stuff. So that's my weird experience with transportation. But if you have something that you use on a daily basis, something that's different, new, something to share on, let us know. If you've enjoyed this podcast and want more, stay tuned for that. But also check out our channel, join the community on YouTube that goes by the same name, your Geek Fix. Be sure to check out Vince on Twitter at MassiveDMG_ and on his YouTube channel, MassiveDMG. Check out James at Mr. Malto4 on Instagram and the Replica Prop Forum. We also want to hear from you, so be sure to send your questions, stories, and other projects to yourgeekfix@gmail.com. In the meantime, this has been your Geek Fix.